Hi, this is Dee, and you're listening to my podcast, Let Me Clear My Throat. It has been, I'm guessing, a couple weeks since I did my last podcast. I have been going over the Sobriety E-Book that I found on drugrehab.com, and I am actually on section 5. And I say section, but episode 5 on this ebook. And basically what I'm doing is I'm going through this ebook and I'm reading through it, but also giving some of my own thoughts and opinions. And it also has some workbooks and questions and whatnot in it. So feel free to get a pen and a paper if you want to and jot them down, or you can go through and and rewind and write them down, or however works for you. And there are no right or wrong answers, and you can change them at any time, obviously, as you continue to grow through sobriety or whatever it is that you're using these questions for. Excuse me. As I talked about in my other podcast, self-medication, as I like to call it, is a form of basically trying to find self-satisfaction in something to stimulate and give positive reinforcement to yourself in regards of coping with something, in my opinion. And a lot of times people want to think that an addiction just gears towards drugs and alcohol. And this is not the case. Drugs and alcohol, yes, are an addiction, but so are cigarettes. So is compulsive eating, compulsive dieting, kleptomaniac, hypochondriac, porn, sex, anything that's a form of self-medicating. Your cell phone, maybe gaming or a TV show, even self-harming. And there's a lot of negative addictions, but there are some positive addictions as well. And maybe that might sound crazy to some people, but to elaborate on that, my example, for instance, would be something like it's okay to have an addiction to compliment people or yourself. It's okay to have an addiction to being understanding to yourself and forgiving yourself or appreciating you. And if you spend just as much time as trying to give yourself compliments than you are to try to put yourself down and helping your self-esteem, so to speak, then your self-worth and everything like that, that would be a positive addiction per se. And I know some people say stuff like, I don't have an addiction. I'm not addicted to cigarettes. It's a habit. Now, if you want to squint your eyes hard enough and look at it that way, then okay. And some people might say, well, fishing or gaming, that's a hobby. That's not an addiction. It's not a habit. I don't have to go. I don't have to play. It's something I like to do. Okay, maybe so. But then a person that drinks alcohol or does drugs could say the same thing. I can quit any time. I don't have to do it. I don't do it every day. I just do it socially, or I just do it for fun, or when I'm bored or I don't have anything else to do, or just want to relieve some stress. It's the same thing. Just because it's drugs or alcohol, then therefore it's an addiction. The rest are just hobbies or habits. That's not true. Unless you want to word it that way. It's a matter of playing with words, if you will. And now, this is honestly my opinion and the way I look at it. And I say, like, sobriety. To me, sobriety I like to call as healing. You're trying to heal whatever it was that caused you or got you involved in some type of self-medication, to alleviate whatever pain or whatever hollowness or whatever emptiness you are feeling that you need to put a Band-Aid on. And when that doesn't work, You go to do another one and another one. And before you know it, you have several of them. And you have mounting amount of different types of hobbies, addictions, habits, you name it, it's there now. Not only are you out of a lot of money, a lot of time, but you're also out a lot of your sanity, a lot of memories, a lot of opportunities, a lot of moments. And some people, unfortunately, don't get a chance to have another moment, to have all the other above. Because the way the world is going today, it's scary. It is so scary. It is like people are hell-bent on hurting somebody. Just for no reason. People are killing people over the most believable things. My daughter just had a friend who was killed the other day. He was shot. He was 28. He was shot over a girl. Somebody shot him over a girl and killed him. This whole man's life is gone over something that just wasn't necessary. Anytime it is a self-inflicted or somebody else, it's somebody else's hand, or anything that is not natural, that's man. Unless it is a natural thing going on that causes your life to, I guess, what's the word I want to put onto it? Come full circle, if you will. If there's a ripple in that circle, mankind in some way has done it. Not God. Not humanity. I'm not saying not humanity, that's not right. It is not a natural cause. It is not the life span, if you will, of natural life. Not to be confused with natural light, the alcohol, or the beer. Beer and alcohol, I guess, are not the same thing. They are, but they're not. Alcohol is like hard liquor, I guess, from what I've been told. So anyway, this is my example. So they can put things in anything. They are putting fentanyl in nasal spray. They are putting it in powder form. They are putting it in anything. But there are drugs out there that are stronger than that Narcan does not even touch and affect. And it is just as common and more deadly than fentanyl or any of the other drugs that are on the streets. And if somebody wants to be a bougie backyard chemist, who's to say they couldn't take it all and make what they call, I don't know if some people, maybe my generation, know what the drink is when you do when you go to a fountain machine and you do what they call a suicide, and you just put a little bit of everything in your cup. You don't measure it, nothing. You just put different drinks from the fountain drink in your cup, and it's called a suicide. Why? I don't know. But my point is, what's to say they can't do this to each kind of different form of drug and make a drug basically called a suicide? And I'm not trying to give anybody ideals. I'm trying to help people with the possibilities of people with ideals. And that's the scary thing. You try to reach out to people to help people, and you're trying to do your best with it, but at the same time, you have to stop and wonder, are you helping somebody to know how to do something? Are you giving a heads up to somebody that might have not had an ideal before, and you're trying to reach out to innocent people to give them, precautional thoughts or whatnot. But instead, you're tipping off somebody on an ideal on something to do. And it's sad that you have to think that way. But you do. Because I could say so many things that have gone through my mind on things that I think about. Excuse me. And that's a lot, by the way. But honestly, you really, I want to, but I don't want to. Because I don't want to give, I don't want to put thoughts in anybody's mind on the dangerous sides of things. Because if nobody else has thought about it, which could be a possibility, I don't want to implement it at all. Because it scares the bejeebies out of me on different ways to think about things. And I am a huge thinker. Huge. I'm an Aquarius. I am a huge thinker. A lot of times people say I overthink. I analyze. Let me say, I'm an analyzer. But anyway, that's just some of my insight in the beginning of getting into this Sobriety E-Book. Because taking this seriously and being honest with yourself is up to you. I can say and give you all the resources and all the information and all the opinions and all the things of, basically food for thought, if you will. But in all honesty, it is your life. You got to decide if you're going to give it to the hands of mankind to shorten it, or have the chance to shorten it. And I say that even to the government, because I would say I'm a proud American, not because of our government, but because of our men and women that fight for it. I am ashamed of our government, and I'm embarrassed of our government. But at the same time, too, they allow so many monopoly things in this world that they forget. Let me rephrase that, because I'm sure they don't forget. They don't give a shit whose expense it's going to be, because their job is to be the government. They clock out, they go home, their day is done, they go home, they be whatever they want to be today, whatever, let's go play golf, let's go shopping, whatever the case may be. But us Americans, us human beings, regardless of where you're at, as a human being, you're at the mercy and the representation of your authority figures. And whether you are a part of their thought or ideal, you are the consequence of their actions. And that is unfair. That is wrong. That is inhumane. And that, with all due respect to all the military men and women and families, that is far from freedom if I ever heard of it. Because we spend more time living in a world of dictators than we do in our own lives. So yeah, I can understand why people would want to self-medicate in some way to get out of the real world and go somewhere else. Because maybe it hurts a little less there. But at the same time, too, that drug does not love you. I don't care what form it is of self-medication in the negative sense. It does not love you. You need to look at that as the government. Why? Because they need to get off their asses and do something more on it. They spend more time, and I'm not a politicianal person by any means, but I am very vocal when it comes to bullshit. Because, in my opinion, they need to spend less money on the most ridiculous things in this world, like stupid laws, for one, and take that money and put it towards actual real life meaningful things. Like giving opportunities and rehabilitation to people, but yet when those people, and I say this all due respect, when the family, and I call it like the felony family, come out of prison and they're supposed to be rehabilitated, let them freaking have a rehabilitated life then. Why do you put restrictions on them? Why do people in society and the government allow them not to have a second chance? And they wonder why they go back to the way of life that they were in, because that's the only way they were able to survive. Hell, they made it this far. They're still going. The government and stuff is what took it away from them, and that drug or whatever it was they were slinging, metaphorically and hypothetically and realistically speaking. Or they need to take that money and be more humane and get these people from being homeless on the street. There should not be a human being in this world that does not have the necessities of life. Not one. And if you know me, I'm going to put a big exclamation point on it now. There should not be a damn military person that needs a damn thing. Period. Explanation point. They should not need a damn thing. And I know this is getting off subject of the Sobriety E-Book, but it's not. Because everything comes back to that. Because life hurts. We live in a hollow planet filled with government dictation, shadowed by mankind's beauty and miracles. Because mankind is coming in here and playing God. And you know what? Heaven help them. But in the meantime, what is that doing to us? What is that doing to us? We're self-medicating to survive life. And then being judged from the very people that dictate our well-being of the reason why we're self-medicating. More or less. Now, some people say, oh, I don't do drugs and alcohol. I don't have a shopping problem. I don't smoke cigarettes. I'm not a hypochondriac. I'm not into porn, and I'm not addicted to sex. I don't play games. I don't go fishing. So, no, I don't have an addiction. I don't, Really? Do you work a lot? Are you a workaholic? Do you like to play golf? There's got to be something. Do you craft a lot? Oh, it's my job. Yeah, okay, I applaud you, because I love to craft. I've played golf twice. The first time, I golfed barefooted. And the second time, I drove the beer cart. The first time, I probably should have been on the beer cart. But that's a different podcast. Now, putt-putt, I could play putt-putt. Well, eventually. Anyway, but there's got to be something that you do that makes you feel good. Do you come home and kick off your shoes and relax in the recliner and get you a cold beer and, watch the TV or whatever? Or just go in there and take a bubble bath repeatedly or soak in there for 6 or 7 hours? I used to do that. For hours. Now, maybe that sounds silly. No, I'm in the relaxing. It's a positive form of self-medication. You're not doing anything wrong. You're not doing anything wrong. You're relieving the stress. You're taking care of you. Because if you don't take care of you, then there's not going to be a you. And then it won't matter, will it? You matter. But the world's got us believing in separation, if you will. United we stand, but yet we're separating? That doesn't make sense to me. You know, and in all due respect, there should not be dedicated months or weeks or years to anything. Everything should freaking matter every day. Now I understand, hey, let's emphasize on it or whatever, and I get that. But things need to matter every day. I don't need for once a year for a month to come around being, oh, hey, this is my favorite month because this contains what I'm most passionate about, and we're going to celebrate it all month long. No. It's a big deal every day. Somebody who's fighting cancer, for example, you think they give a rat's ass if somebody's going to say, oh, hey, once a year it's going to matter. No, it matters every day. It matters every day. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't have things, but, you know, 1 month, like, okay, for instance, and I'm not trying to make anybody upset. All due respect, because I'm very passionate about people, not organization of categorizing people. I'm interested and passionate about a human being. I don't care the details. You're a person. You're a human being on this world. That is what I care about. I don't need to see your face. I don't need to know what you look like or know your name or anything like that for you to matter to me. But they make more nationality, what's the word I want to use? They emphasize more, in all due respect, I mean no disrespect at all to either one of these separated but combined communities, if you will. You have Pride Month in the exact same month that you have Military Appreciation Month. How many people hear about the Military Appreciation Month? The month of June. And I'm not, no disrespect, but in all due fairness, they do go together because they were pulled apart. And some of the younger generation may not know, but when you were gay, if you will, or referring the same sex or bisexual, whatever your preference was, if you wasn't the way society deemed you that you should be appropriately on this is man, this is woman, you were shunned out of that government. You were shunned and not allowed in the military. And that's wrong in more ways than it's not. And sorry, I had to plug in my battery. My computer was dying. So, you know, I understand in a point of, you know, it's all important, but I hope, in all due respect, that people realize in the gay community, if you will, respectfully, you want to talk about heritage and your background and where you've come from. You've come a long, long way in life. Just like women have, just like people of different nationalities, people of different colors, people of different religions, people of different handicaps, if you will. The military has even came a long way. And in all due respect, that should have never had to be a thing in the first place. Because if we're all supposed to be equal, then we shouldn't be separated. We shouldn't have to be fighting for a spot in who matters. We all matter. The government separates us. That's, what's the word I'm looking for? Bullshit. That's bullshit. So it takes it back to where are you now? There are some people, and I'm going to say this with love in my heart, where self-medication was the most deadliest thing that they could come up with. Because to them, there was no other option. And I speak that from experience in so many directions. A lot of people, and I speak for myself, don't want to die. They just want the pain to stop. It's too heavy. Self-medication comes in many forms. Self-harm is real. I did a podcast called, basically it was called Addicted to Depression. You could be addicted to depression. And it's an interesting concept to think about, but yet scary. And if you haven't checked out that podcast, you should. Because I thought, man, I wonder if somebody could be addicted to this. And I don't mean that in a form of, oh, I got to have my addiction. No, it becomes a form of your life that's all you know. And you don't know how to get out of it. It's trying to heal, to gain your life back. Because you get to the point where living sucks the life right out of you. And the only way you can breathe again, you think, is trying to put some type of something in that hollowness that is supposed to be blood going through your veins instead of poison. Regardless if it's a negative thought, if it's contaminated, if it's got chemicals, if it's got alcohol, if it's got pain and sorrow, if it's got scars and slice marks. It is something that's real to you. And if it's real to you, regardless if it's real to anybody else in this whole breathing planet, it's still real to you. We are all the same color and nationality and colored hair and colored eyes and education and religion. We are all the same in the dark. If we all walked around with our eyes closed, monotoned if you want, but no, walk around with your eyes closed, we all look the same. We all look the same. We all have the same colored blood going through our veins. Plain and simple. And we all have one exact same thing in common. Death. Now, is life going to cheat you at death? Well, I guess that's up to mankind, isn't it? Because we are a product of production, but we are a sacrifice of our government, in my opinion. And now that we are 30 minutes into this, I will start on the ebook. And it brings it back, and it does bring it all back to this. And that's the way I look at it, because everything is about everything. Because it makes you a human being. So they say, oh, that ain't related, that has nothing to do with this. Yes, it does. Because that's what makes this planet go around. And the sad thing of it is when somebody dies, that planet still spins. They don't even know that person's gone. But you do. Unless it's you. So in my first 4 episodes, this is the 5th, of the Sobriety E-Book that I got for drugrehab.com. It's the Sobriety E-Book, Your Guide to a Better Life, by Chris Elkins. I'm going to recap some of the things I went over, and then I'm going to get in where we picked off, where we stopped. First, we started off with a welcome letter from Dr. Timothy Huckabee. He talked about his experiences and it was basically a welcome letter, and talked about his experiences and his words of encouragement. And if you haven't checked out this ebook, I invite you to do so, because it's very informative. Feel free to download it or copy it or print it, whatever you need to do. And it is helpful. Anyway, I was going to recap it, and then I put the pages down. In part 1, in the first episode, we had the welcome letter, how to use the ebook, quick safety tips for sobriety, understanding addiction, recovery, and relapse. In part 2, we talked about making a choice, setting goals, creating a support system, finding a safe environment, and evaluating your environment. This section also had some questions, workbook questions in there that I went over. And like I said, there are no right or wrong answers. Just be honest with yourself when you answer them. And you can always go back and change your answers as you grow. The third one was setting boundaries, communicating boundaries, think about your relationships, create your own boundaries, and establish consequences. And in the 4th episode, the last one I did, was on triggers and cravings. It had a craving questionnaire and how to avoid triggers. And again, it had workbook questions. In this one, we are going to talk about coping skills. Coping behavior, it's got a coping behavior questionnaire, deciding how you cope, and keep track of how you cope. And depending on how long this takes to get through, will depend on if we get through the next session, which will be stress management. So in the next few sessions that we'll have after this one, we have stress management, time management, handling relapse, resources for sobriety. So it's got a bunch of resources and stuff. Reflecting on what you've accomplished, and more information on drugrehab.com. So that's what's up to come still. So in this one here, I'm on page 52. And this is the coping behaviors questionnaire. It says, coping with triggers is easier said than done. Avoiding and overcoming triggers sounds simple. In real life, it can be incredibly difficult. You can prepare for cravings by assessing your coping skills. And again, you have to be honest with yourself on realistic ways that you have forms to cope, to get you through the moment of whatever it is that you have to get through. If it's a craving, if it's an impulse, if it's a thought, if it's anxiety, overwhelming, depression, whatever it is, try to find a coping mechanism to walk you through it and basically get you through it. You can't go around, you can't go under, and you can't go over. You have to work through it. Because if you don't work through it, and these are my words here, if you don't work through it, then you don't have a chance of facing it head on in order to cope and heal from it. Otherwise, you're just masking it again. And you're dodging it without even realizing it. And I always say, push it back, Dee. Just push it back. We'll deal with it later. And sometimes I have to do that, because I can't deal with the moment either direction. I can't deal with the moment of whatever is getting at me, and I can't deal with the moment of dealing with the moment, because it will set me into something. It will set me into my anxiety. It will set me into a panic attack. It'll set me into something. It'll trigger me. My PTSD will kick in. Whatever it will do. I have to find ways to cope, to work through that moment. If I cannot deal with the moment at the time, then I try to stop the moment until I'm able to work through the moment. If that makes sense. The coping behaviors inventory was developed to assess the coping techniques. Techniques that alcoholics use to avoid drinking. An adapted version of the inventory begins on the next page. Well, let's see what this says. So we have a questionnaire. Yay! Like I said, there are no right or wrong answers. And to be honest with you, I hate these. Because I hate that, let me rephrase that. I hate them because of the number scale. You know, usually, often, sometimes, never. I don't like, that's just me on taking tests, you know, but that's just me. Everybody's different. Maybe that's the easier way to think. It's like when you go to the doctor, like, on a scale of 1 to 10, how are you feeling? Well, I'm sitting in the ER, my foot's hanging off, and I lost a couple of toes. I don't know, a 2? I mean, I just, you know what I mean? I just, metaphorically, all due respect, anyway. Okay. Complete the questionnaire and determine which skills you need to practice more often or work on. Think of ways that you've tried to stop yourself from your addiction. Determine how often, and it says drinking or drugs. Okay, I'm saying addiction. Determine how often you have tried each of the techniques below. Circle the number that most accurately describes how often you have used the technique. Number 1. Thinking about how much better off I am without drinking or using. So how much better off are you without utilizing your addiction? 0, usually. You're better off usually. You're better off often. You're better off sometimes. Or you're better off never. And the scale is 0, 1, 2, and 3. So usually is 0, often is 1, sometimes is 2, and never is 3. Number 2, calling or texting a friend. Now this is, I'm going to read back here. Circle the number that most accurately describes how often you have used the technique. So how often you have used it. Calling or texting a friend. Usually, often, sometimes, or never. Again, 0, 1, 2, 3. Number 3. These are all 0, 1, 2, 3, by the way. Number 3. Keeping in the company of non-drinkers or non-users. How often have you used that technique? Keeping in the company of non-drinkers and non-users. Number 4. Thinking positively. How often have you used that technique? Thinking positively. Number 5. Thinking of the mess I've got myself into through drinking or using. How often have you used that technique? Thinking of the mess you have made or got yourself into because of your addiction. Honesty. You've got to be honest with yourself. If you are participating in something of this nature, then it is on your mind. It has got your attention. It is something in some way has touched you in one way or another in your life, and this is why you're here. And I applaud you. Honestly, I do. Because that is a huge thing. I cannot see who listens to this. I do not know who you are. I guarantee that. Nobody else knows your answers unless you share them. That is on you. So be honest with yourself. And if you don't want anybody else to know your answers, maybe you're a silent healing addict. And you're keeping it under wraps. I applaud you even more. Then keep it up somewhere safe, wherever you feel comfortable. So nobody sees your answers if you're not comfortable with it. But at the same time, be honest with yourself. Otherwise, you might as well just press stop now. I mean, I'm not saying press stop now, but I mean, if you're not interested in what you need to do to make yourself do what you need to do, then these are just words. But at the same time, I personally believe everybody has been touched in one way or another of some form of somebody's something. So even if this doesn't necessarily pertain to you per se, there's got to be somebody that you love or know that it has. Or the information that you get might be the very information that might actually come from you to somebody else that needs it at the right time. There's a reason why right now that I am in your ear. I didn't force myself in your ear. You chose that moment. And I am proud of you. All due respect, I am absolutely proud of you. That means a lot to me. And if you knew me, that's a very honest statement. It really is. It can get any more honestly than that. So, anyway, number 6, stopping to examine my motives and eliminating the false ones. How often have you utilized that technique? Stopping to examine my motives and eliminating the false ones. So taking the time to look at your motives and eliminating the ones that are negative and wrong and false. So what motives do you have? Maybe you have negative moments or motives on something. What can you do to eliminate those? You got to make your negative moments and motives and make them positive reasons, positive moments, positive positivity, and get rid of the negative and the lies and the bullshit. Number 7, thinking of the promises I've made to others. Thinking of the promises I've made to others. How often have you used that technique? Have you thought about the promises that you've given others? Does it cross your mind? Or are you, obliviated to it, or just let it go and don't even stop to think about it, don't care? Or do you actually ever stop and think about it? And if you do, this is my question. If you do stop to think about it, what happens? What happens when you think about it? Does it matter to you? Does it trigger you? These are things that every question on here, and I'm putting this in here, every question on here has a spin-off question that can go to it. So just because this is a question doesn't mean it can't have subsidiary questions with it, if you will. Because it all goes together. So if you're thinking of promises that you made to others, for example, what promises have you made? Why didn't you keep them? What was the consequence of not keeping it? How did it make you feel? What did you end up doing? That's where you got to break it down and think about it. And being honest with yourself on it, because that is how you work through it. That is how you try to heal. That takes away your excuses. Break it down. You take more time breaking down that drug and cleaning it to make sure there's no bullshit in it. Why can't you do it to the same as the bullshit that you feed people? All due respect. Break it down. Because the only person that you're hurting in the end of it, that you're sacrificing, is the one person that you stopped to even consider. Yourself. Because at the end of it all, you're the one laying in that casket. You're the one laying on the side of the road that somebody discarded, and maybe they can't identify you, so they got to do some kind of culture on you. Or maybe you're so bad off they can't self-identify you, so they're just going to, oh, that person lived here at this address, so we're just going to say it's them. That's a fact. That's happened to somebody I knew. I used to clean crime scenes for a living. That's a fact. They had no idea who the dude was because he was so far gone. They couldn't identify his tattoos. They couldn't identify him. Nothing. They just said, well, it must be him because he lived here. And nobody's heard from him. So, it's him. True fact. At the end of it all, that one moment is you. Be honest with you. Don't take away your moment. Number 8. Staying indoors or hiding. Staying indoors or hiding. How often have you done this technique? Are you hiding? You hiding from people? Are you staying inside? Are you putting darkening curtains on or getting paranoid and kept looking out the window? Now, all due respect, I say this with respect. Sometimes people are justified to look out that window because sometimes there is stuff going on because maybe your drug deal has went bad and you're watching your butt so you don't get shot up. And if that's the case, maybe you need to reevaluate a little bit more on a different question. Just my opinion. Number 9. Pausing and really thinking the whole addiction cycle through. How often have you used this technique? Have you stopped to really think about the whole addiction cycle? What started you? Why did you do it? What have you lost? What has it cost you? What have you been through? How many times have you overdosed? How many times have you lost your job? How many times have you been homeless? How many times have you stolen from somebody? How many times have you robbed somebody? How many times have you broken in somebody's house? How many times have you stolen a car? Go with it. Think about the cycle. Think about that addiction. Is it worth it? Is it worth all that? That drug does not love you. The ones that you're hurting, they do. And the bad thing of it is, the one you're hurting the most is the one that you should love the most. Yourself. That drug don't love you. I promise you. And you want to know how I know that even more? That drug will not visit you at your funeral and tell you it's sorry and it misses you. And it wishes that you were here because it wanted to spend more time with you. No, it's done went off to its next victim. It don't love you. It used you. You didn't use it. It used you. Number 10. Leaving my money at home. How many times have you used that technique? Say you're addicted. I'm going to say this. Say you're addicted to gambling in the casino. Now, I live 7.5 miles away from a casino, okay? I used to work as a casino security. We weren't allowed to gamble or nothing when I worked there, but no here nor there. I actually would... People are vicious. I've saw some things that are just really interesting. But would you purposely leave your money at home so you wouldn't spend it? Or your debit card? Or would you purposely give your money to somebody else so that way you wouldn't have access to it? Have you, and this is my question, have you taken the time to thought about all the times where you were broke, but yet you were never too broke to buy your addiction? I'm broke. I don't have no money. I need more money. I need this. I need that. I don't have this, that, and the other. I can't figure out how I'm going to pay for this. Oh, hey, I got some money. I can buy that. I'll take blah blah blah. Or give me 2 packs of cigarettes. No, I can't do that tonight. I don't have any money, man. I'm broke. Hey, can you run me to the gas station so I can get me a couple packs of cigarettes? Or better yet, I'm out of money. Would you mind spotting me some cigarettes? I'll pay you back. Yeah, sure you will. Let me add it to the no you won't list. Your habit now is cost somebody else. Or I'm sorry, your addiction, your hobby. I don't know, however you want to word it. Number 11. Recognizing life is no bed of roses, but drinking or using is not the answer. How many times have you used this technique? Recognizing that life is no bed of roses, but drinking and using is not the answer. It's not the solution. How many times have you used that and thought about that? Number 12, going to a support group or meeting. How many times have you used that technique? And you want to know something else? There are people that are addicted to support meetings. And there are people that use support meetings to meet people, to hook up. And they probably have a support meeting for those people. Just saying. And I'm not saying they don't work. I'm not saying that at all. Because I know there are many people in this world that have suffered so hard and struggle every moment of their being to fight their sobriety, to stay in the mindset of keep going, you can do this, you've come this far, keep going. And I give you a standing ovation for that. I really wholeheartedly do. But at the same time, there are people that abuse the positiveness and the positive enforcement and the positive resources that are given to people to help them. And people make it a point to make it a habit, if you will, to abuse those in a negative way. And that's sad. Number 13. Knowing that not drinking or using, I can show my face again without fear of what others will think. How many times have you used that technique? Knowing that, oh, I haven't drank or used anything, so now I can go here and here and here, and I don't have to worry about what people think or looking at me all funny, wanting to know if I'm on something. Be all up in my face or whatever, or accuse me of being messed up. Nope, I'm clean, I'm sober, and I can go now, and I'm good with it. How many times have you thought about that? How many times have you been able to do that? Number 14, cheering myself up by buying myself something special instead. So, cheering yourself up instead of taking your money to buy your drugs or your alcohol or whatever addiction you're doing, and going out and doing something positive. Let's say like go on vacation. Go take your children somewhere. Take your spouse somewhere. Take you somewhere. Hey, I'm going to take myself out to dinner and a movie. I should be able to get a really nice steak dinner and see a really bougie movie where the seats recline and vibrate and heat up, instead of taking that money and going buying my form of self-medication negative. How many times have you done that? Number 15. Facing up to my bad feelings instead of trying to drown them. So all the bad feelings and all the bad demons and all the bad voices and all that you have, how many times have you faced them and tried to redirect them in a positive manner than trying to drown them out or whatever it is that you do that hurts you or other people? Because, and I've said this, what if your demons are, and I say this with respect, what if your demons are not bad? What if they're trying to help you? What if they're trying to guide you? What if they're trying to make you laugh? What if they're trying to show you something? What if it's trying to have you face your fears, or something that you're self-conscious over, or something that you're afraid of? So then when you see something or hallucinate something, if you will, or whatever, your mind is like, okay, this is what we're going to do, because you need to see this, but yet you might feel and take it in a totally different direction, because everybody thinks that demons, if you want to call them that, are bad. And I've said this before. Not all angels fly, and not all angels are white. And God made light and dark. And sometimes you have to go in the dark in order to actually see yourself the way you need to see yourself and see the world, not the way the world makes you look at you. Because sometimes that light is too blinding and you can't even see your hand in your face, let alone the stop sign. Because the sun's in the way. Because it's too bright, so to speak. So maybe it would help to face your pain and heal by trying to take something good from it instead of the negative pain from it. So if you see something weird, look at it in a different way. Look at it in a way that's like, that's actually kind of cool. That's really neat. That's very intriguing. Or that's very talented. Or maybe I need to really focus on what I'm really doing in my life. If my life is becoming this right now, that I am so insecure and so heartbroken over being me, that I am allowing something that does not love me to allow something so phenomenal, if you will, as demonic. When in fact it might be the very opposite. It's your mindset that looks at it, not your heart. And if it's something that is unbelievable or impossible, quotations, maybe you're seeing it with the wrong set of eyes. And I'm not saying take your eyes out or whatever. I'm saying sometimes in life, you have to not look with your vision. You have to look with your soul. I used to tell somebody one time, I don't need to see you to love you. I see you with my heart. I love you with my heart, not my eyes. Looking at you is a bonus. I love you with my heart. There is a difference. Well, you think blind people? You think blind people don't have feelings? My mother is blind. And you know what? She wasn't always blind, okay? She has macular degeneration where her retinas are detaching. And she has something they call a Charles Bonnet syndrome disease. It's basically when you can't see, your brain gets bored, so it makes up things for you to see. And in the beginning, my mom struggled with it. Because obviously she never, what they call hallucinate before like that. So I did some research on it and tried to look at it, trying to find some coping skills for her to do to help her work through her Charles Bonnet moment. And they actually did help her. And it's basically redirecting yourself to a different moment. If there is, and I say this because it doesn't contradict, but it does kind of contradict. And I know that probably doesn't make sense. But like hypothetically, let's say you see something. Nobody else sees it, but you see it, okay? Or you hear something, and nobody else does. And then you're like, okay. And you just keep looking at it. Now, if you look at it long enough, your mind's going to play tricks on you. And if you're doing some type of something and your brain is dehydrated, or your brain has got too much fluid on it and is not natural, then it is going to put pressure on the left hemisphere of your brain or dehydrate. Well, then would also cause problems in shrinkage or whatever. Your left side of your brain hemisphere is where your hallucinations come from. So there's some type of damage or some type of altercation, if you will, respectfully, to your brain or your vision or your mind, or which is your brain, but to anything. If you look at it long enough, it's gonna move. It's gonna play tricks on your eyes because you're confusing yourself. Because at the same time you're looking, your brain is looking at something. Your eyes are looking at something that your brain knows is not there. But yet you're going to look at it, so you're confusing your brain. Okay, you keep looking at it. So is it or is it not real? But you keep looking at it. So then it grows, or it moves, or it does whatever you're thinking. Maybe it's a little bit of everything because your mind controls you. And if you confuse it, if you don't take care of it, if you drown it, if you dehydrate it, if you damage it, if you manipulate it, if you condition it, if you dictate it, your brain will not be at the full capacity it needs to be healthy. And it will be confused. And so will you. Because not everything you see is real. But not everything you don't see isn't. People want to believe in Santa Claus, but they don't want to believe in God. There's miracles around you everywhere. I assure you, I honestly don't believe Santa Claus did that. From my understanding, he only comes one time a year, and we celebrate him for months. But, no, it can't be God, right? Because you've never saw him. Have you ever saw Santa Claus? Oh, yeah, at the mall. All due respect. And I always say, yeah, there is a Santa Claus if you want to look at it. Because anybody that gives with their heart without wanting something in return is what they call Santa Claus, per se. So that doesn't need to be one time a year, does it? Maybe that's our problem. I don't need a Christmas tree up to be a good person. I don't need to go shopping and put wrapping paper on a gift and put a bow on top of it and write somebody's name on it to be a good person. Being a good person doesn't cost you anything but being a, morally respectful, loving, and kind human being. Really, honestly, you know what it costs you? Let me retract that. Being a good person only costs you one thing. and it's priceless. Your time. Your time. Time in your life. And God gave you that. Mankind's trying to take it from you, but God gave it to you. My word of thought. Let's see what we're at. Number 16. Working harder. How many times have you utilized that technique? Working harder. Working harder as in trying to get through this, trying to work through it, trying to get sober, trying to have your life back, trying to be you, trying to be a human being and not self-mutilating yourself as a human being. And you don't have to cut yourself to self-harm yourself. Anything that is not naturally made in your body is mankind. It didn't come standard with your body. It didn't come standard from the factory per se. All the additives, all the preserves, all the BS, all this, that, and the other, mankind. Mankind. What you decide to put in the natural flora of your body and the antigens where they regrow and your, whatever, your DNA, whatever you want to pass on to your children. And, because whatever you put into your system, it becomes a part of your system. And if you reproduce, where do you think that's going to go? It's going to go in your reproductive. And guess who's going to get that? So that drug you take, that alcohol you take, that cigarette you smoke, whatever it is, passes on in your reproduction. So when you light that cigarette, you take that drug, you drink hard liquor or whatever. Now maybe you're like, hey, I ain't have no kids, or I already got all my kids. Are you doing it around your kids? No, I don't do it around my kids. Oh, okay. So when you go to the bar, or you go to somebody's house, or you step outside or whatever, and let's say hypothetically, you either get arrested or something else happens to you and you don't make it back home to your kids. Now your kids are paying the consequence of your action. Is it worth it? Now, by no means am I perfect. Please don't misconstrue that. I understand. That is the whole point of this podcast. Because I am self-healing myself in ways that I'm trying to be positive on things that I am a surviving self-harm person. I am a surviving suicidal victim. I am a surviving lots of things in my life. Lots of things. And like I said, you don't have to be drugs and alcohol or smoking cigarettes to have an addiction, to have something that you're working through. It's not a matter of so much of the product, if you will. It's a matter of the production of what it's doing to you. The product is producing you. Are you part of the factory? Just keep on coming out. Just keep going, keep going, keep going. Well, what happens when they have to shut it down? Because, I don't know, there's a glitch in the system, or maybe one of the machines messed up, or maybe somebody called in so they had to do shortcuts. I don't know, like when the Corona was around or whatever. People had to do shortcuts around things because they were short-staffed. They had to do cutbacks. They had to cut corners. So, making drugs then, per se, a lot of things were not so accessible, if you will. So then shortcuts were made, cheaper versions were made, and therefore when things were lifted, people still stayed in the same form of their production, which was even more bullshit than the bullshit that was in the bullshit that was their first place. Because how many times you hear people say, man, this shit ain't no good. Stuff used to be, man, I don't know, man, this stuff ain't as good as what it used to be. Well, duh. You're chasing a drug that ain't there. If you want to go drink some freaking turpentine or some gasoline or some acetone or whatever, battery acid, go out to your backyard. Get your lawnmower out. Now this ain't by any means an encouragement, okay? I'm just saying, as an example. Oh, no, I wouldn't drink no gasoline, man, that'd kill me. I wouldn't drink no antifreeze. I wouldn't drink no starter fluid. I wouldn't drink no, what is it? I don't know, whatever they whatever they put in stuff. I wouldn't do that. That's disgusting. What the hell do you think you're putting in your body? You don't know. That's the thing. You don't know. You don't know. Even all the way down to the food you eat. You don't know what's in that food. We are so well preserved in the preservatives that are preserved in our food that my insides are probably preserved. It's the rest of me that's having problems. My insides are going to be preserved, no problem. My digestive system, whatever. Hey, it's lined with additives and preservatives all the way through. And you know why? They're all the way through the arteries, through the veins, through my lymph nodes, through this, and they're getting all preserved. It might as well just be, I don't know, a hardening cream, if you will. Nope. Well, let me rephrase that. That don't sound right. Sorry. Anyway. Harden the arteries. Harden the veins. Harden your lymph nodes. Clogging it up. It's like, it's got so much additives and preserves in it that there's no way for it to keep flowing because it's blocked. They have more road construction on roads that I still don't understand what they even do sometimes. They have more road construction on the roads than they do on taking the preservatives out of our food. I don't need a hamburger to last 20 years. I need it to last long enough to get in my mouth, down my belly, and out into the world where the Teddy Bo Man lives, because that's all I need. I don't need all that other stuff. People are like, oh, I grow my own food, I can my own food. Yeah, well, you know what? That's cool and all. But you know what kind of rain we get? Pollution in the air. There is nothing in this world, I feel like, that is sacred anymore. That is actually pure, honestly real, and non-contaminated. And that is not because of God. That is because of mankind and our government. And I don't, and I'm not, when I was talking earlier about ridiculous laws, have you ever looked up ridiculous laws? You should. I looked them up one time. I wrote some down and sent them to a friend of mine that was in prison. And there was actually a law that said it was against the law to wear tail lights on your behind crossing the street. First of all, why would I be wearing tail lights on my behind? Why? Why is that a law? Why did somebody take taxpayers' money, sit in a big room, and pass a law that that's a law? Why? There's a law that you have to have an egg license to sell eggs. True story. My mom and I used to own a store, and we had to pay to get an egg license. And there was an egg inspector that came and inspected our eggs in our refrigerators. Oh, yes, he did. He had one of them big bright lights, put it on the side of the egg, and shined it through. Him and I had an argument over a couple of things. But We had to pay to get an egg license. Somebody sat back and passed a law that you had to have an egg license to sell eggs. Not to put them in your food, but to sell them. I can get an egg anywhere and do whatever I want to it as long as I don't sell it. I put it in your food, whip you up some food, whatever. Make you some scrambled eggs. No regulation on that. But if I take that egg and say, hey, I'm going to sell you this egg, I have to have an egg license. That's a real thing. Now you're all probably thinking, what in the bejeebies? Yep. I had to pay for an egg license. And all due respect to this university, to Purdue University, I had to pay $10 for an egg license to Purdue University to get an egg license to sell eggs. And had an egg inspector who came out and inspected our eggs. And the reason why I knew we had to do it is because he came in the first time and we didn't know we had to have one. So he gave us a warning in time enough to get us an egg license. And he came back. True story. That's my example of stupid laws. There needs to be more regulation on things that we are going to eat all the way around. If you're going to inspect my eggs that are sitting in that refrigerator, but you're not going to inspect the eggs that are being cooked for me to eat, and the argument that he and I had, a perfect example. I went to the store. This was at Easter time, okay? And I'm not trying to gross nobody out, but this is a true story. I went to the store. I bought some eggs. I was making eggs in the morning for my kids and myself. My daughter, my oldest daughter, wanted the last egg. I said, okay. I went to go crack it, and there was a little bit of red coming out. I thought, man, this egg, is it spoiled? Is it rotten? There was a baby chicken in it. There was a baby chicken in that egg. This was at Easter time. What if I had boiled that egg for Easter? There's a baby chicken. I took it back to the store. There was a line of people there. Had it in a purple bowl. And I said, I made eggs this morning and this was in my egg. They gave me my money back and another carton of eggs. Do you think I want that carton of eggs? I mean, I took it. I told him this. He told me I was lying, that was not possible. Don't tell me that, when I know for a fact it was true. So he and I had words. And then he said, well, the only way it could be true is if you got somebody's farm egg. I don't know what factory did. I don't work in that production line. I don't know what was made on that assembly line. I just know I had a baby chicken that came out of the egg because my daughter wanted an egg and I couldn't give it to her because I was too busy fishing a baby chicken out of my pan. That was dead. He didn't say no more. My example, though, you don't know. But there's not regulations enough to worry about what we are consuming, only what we're selling. It's not what we're consuming in our bodies. It's what people are making money on. That is wrong. Number 17. Realizing it's just not worth it. How many times have you used that technique? Realizing it's just not worth it. Is it really worth that moment to take away your next moment of something good? Even if it's the good part of starting to heal yourself. It takes one moment to say, nah, man, I'm good. I pass. One moment. or it takes one moment to not pass. And before you know it, your friends, all due respect, freak out and dump you on the corner because they don't want to be affiliated with you dying. And maybe you could have survived, but everybody was scared because everybody was messed up, and maybe they didn't have nothing to give you, or maybe whatever reason it was, nonetheless, they're planning your funeral. One moment. Waiting it out. How many times have you used this technique? Waiting it out. Basically redirecting yourself in a positive moment, or in a positive way, to wait out the moment, to get through the moment. You're having a big, huge craving, a big, huge trigger. What do? Well, you're going to, maybe, unless you find a way to cope and work through that moment and trying to wait it out. Let it take its course to pass through you, so to speak. Not literally. Well, I mean, you could do a cleansing, give yourself an enema, get that stuff out of you. However you want to do it. Clean your system out. Detox. Don't go to a detox center to detox so you can get out and use more, so that way you can be fresh to have a bigger high. Don't do that. That's abusing the resources of something that's supposed to be good. Number 19. Remembering how I've let my friends and family down in the past. How many times have you done that and recognized and used that technique? Remembering how you've let family and friends down in your past. And like I said, analyze it. Break it down. What happened? What'd you do? What were the consequences? Are you still family and friends in your life? Break it down. Put questions on your questions. Because you put questions on your questions, it's going to help you find the answers to your answers. If that makes sense. But also, too, when you sit there and you think about it and you have to break it down and analyze it, that also helps you to work through whatever it is that you're chasing that you're never gonna catch. Whatever you're chasing in that drug or that moment of addiction or cigarette or whatever it is, whatever you're chasing, if you haven't found it, because if you had found it, you wouldn't be chasing it still. It would have done fulfilled you. If you were like, oh man, I need this because of this, and this. Well, if that drug was going to heal you, you wouldn't still be chasing it. That's like a medication from the doctor. Somebody's going to take heart medicine, let's say per se. They're going to take heart medicine, prescription. That medicine is keeping them alive. It's working. It's not chasing the drug. That's somebody who was talented, mankind, somehow was given a gift to be able to make such a creation to save lives in a positive direction and take something good to save somebody, than to take the same medication to try to get a high off of it in a negative direction. Person is not chasing a high. They're trying to chase to save their life. Or maybe they're taking that so they can run and have a life. While you're over here chasing a drug you're never going to catch. You're never going to catch it. Because it's not there. Again, it takes you back to where your mind plays tricks on you. Your eyes see it, but your brain's going, no, it's not there. And your eyes are going, I see it. It's right there. I'm looking right at it. But your brain's going, oh, maybe this one time. And then you do, and your brain's going, yeah, I didn't think it would, man. We need to go find something else then, because now you done got me all messed up and confused. And your eyes are going, where's it at? Where's it at? Where's it at? Who's got it? Let me go look. Let me go look somebody down. Let me go chase somebody down. Hey, man, we need to go make a run. Really? You're going to go make a run? Where are you running? Who are you chasing? Oh, you're chasing that drug. You're trying to get a ride to the gas station. You're trying to get a ride to the liquor store. You're trying to get a ride to where? Wherever you can get satisfaction that is not satisfying you. You're running in a circle. A circle of mankind that is not making anything kind about it. They're not your kind of people. And I wonder, guess you'll never know, are they going to come to your funeral? Your buddies or your friends that threw you on the side of the sidewalk? Are they going to come to your funeral and pay their respects and tell you how sorry they are that you're gone, and they'll miss you, and they wish you were here, and times will never be the same without you, buddy, or whatever? Are they going to have the balls, the audacity to come to your funeral? All due respect, they threw you on the street corner. So did that drug. The only thing is, that drug don't know where a street corner is. It just knows where you're at. And wherever you're at is where you're going to land. Number 20. Keeping away from people who drink or use. How many times have you used that technique? Keeping away from people who drink or use. Now, that would be really, really difficult if it's somebody that you love, somebody that means a lot to you, or if it's, say, your spouse or your significant other, or even your children or your family member, your friend, whatever the case may be. Keeping away from them in order for you to be you. 21. Going for a walk. You're not running. You're going for a walk. Walking's good for you. It's good exercise. It's positive. Sunshine is awesome vitamin D. No pun intended, because my name's D. But vitamin D is very nutritious for you. It's a great source of happiness. Yeah, what is your drug supposed to give you? Happiness? How's that working? Well, you start self-medicating yourself in a form where you're telling your brain that this is supposed to make me happy. This is supposed to boost my dopamine. This is supposed to my endorphins and whatnot, or whatever the case may be. And your brain's going, yeah, I'm not feeling it. I really feel like I'm going to have a nervous breakdown right now. That drug didn't work. Can I have a cigarette? Or I need a beer to calm my nerves down. Or, man, I need to get out of here. Let's go do something, or or whatever the case may be. Let's go over in so and so's house and go do blah blah blah. That's whatever. And that's not a good source. Going for a walk and enjoying life outside, taking in the sunshine, appreciating the beauty of the world that God has given us. The trees and the blue sky and the birds and the butterflies and the rivers and the oceans and the lakes and even the rain. And and the sad thing of it is that you go outside. If you've got a breathing problem or allergies, you're allergic to outside. What are you going to do? You can't even go outside and enjoy God's creations and miracles because mankind has contaminated so much, you're allergic to it. Or you can't breathe because there's too much pollution in the air. Too many pesticides. Too much of this, too much of that. Nothing natural. And that makes us allergic to each other. You talk about keeping 6 feet away. How far are you from your life when you can't enjoy your life? 6 feet away or 6 feet under. Either way, nobody can reach you. To give you a hug when you need one. Number 22. Looking on the bright side and trying to stop making excuses for yourself. How many times have you used that technique? Looking on the bright side and trying to stop making excuses. Trying to find the good in things instead of the bad, and quit trying to make excuses for yourself. Quit bullshitting yourself and everybody else. Because sometimes, even regardless of what color skin you have, sometimes you are very transparent. And people can see right through you. And sometimes there's a blinking light above your head that is really not there. Let me not put things in people's hallucinations. That's saying, I'm lying. Or maybe their nose is growing a little bit on, like Pinocchio. Hypothetically, okay? I'm not trying to put hallucinations in people's minds. I do hope that this is all coming through, because my computer is minimizing and getting bigger, and I think I have like a screensaver on it, and it's being, as I want to say in a non-funny way, funny. I think it's like going to sleep, so hopefully this is not glitchy. Because I looked over and it was on my main screen, but then when I hit the button again, it started playing again, so I don't know. Hopefully this is all going through. So anyway, number 23, realizing it's affecting my health. How many times do you utilize that technique? Realizing it's affecting your health. 24, start doing something in the house. How many times have you done that technique? Actually doing something in the house, and motivation. Motivation. You're sitting there all the time you're not getting anything done, because you're constantly running back and chasing something that you're not getting, or whatever it is you're doing. But now maybe you're actually getting something done in the house. You're actually getting something accomplished. You're motivated. 25. Considering the effect it will have on your family. Have you stopped to consider the effects it will have on your family? How many times have you done that? 26. Reminding myself of the good life I can have without drinking or using or self-medicating, however you want to do it. Reminding yourself of a good life you can have. How many times have you done that? 27. Getting in touch with old friends who are better now. So say that you have some friends who have gotten sober and they're better now. Have you gotten in touch with them? Have you talked to them and spoke to them about how they've done it and how they've healed, and maybe helping you? Or, like I talked before about how they always say you shouldn't be the same crowd. And I've talked about, why would you want to leave your family and friends alone behind? If you were able to get strong enough to go back to get them, to help them, why wouldn't you want to? And I've talked about them in my other podcasts as well. But sometimes you have to get to the point where you have to be strong enough to be able to do that. Because if not, then you are going to get a chance of sitting down in the rotation of the circle, of the merry-go-round. 29. Eating a good meal. Oh, wait a minute. Sorry. Back up. I forgot 28. 28. Making up my mind that I'm going to stop playing games with myself. Making up my mind that I'm going to stop playing games with myself. This goes back to being honest with yourself. When are you going to get tired of bullshitting yourself? Number 29, eating a good meal. When's the last time you had a good meal and actually could eat it? and taste it. Number 30, avoiding places where I used to drink or used. Avoiding places you used to go. Now, it would be hard if you like to go to clubs and whatever, and say you like to go dancing or listen to a band or whatever, and maybe you're a recovering alcoholic or whatever the case may be. Or maybe you're used to going to strip clubs with people, and so you're, all up on that or whatever, theoretically, or maybe literally. So taking yourself away from that environment, per se. How often have you utilized that technique? 31, thinking about all the people who have helped me. That's a big one. Thinking about all the people who have helped me. How many times have you utilized that technique? And again, who has it been? What have they done? What did you do? How did it turn out? Questions to ask yourself. Break it down. 32. Saying I am well and wish to stay that way. Saying I'm well and wishing to stay that way. 33. Going to sleep. When's the last time you utilized that technique? Because again, your brain needs to rest. It needs to heal. And the only way it can do that to compute your life and your day is to rest. And you need to sleep. And when you stay up for extended times, day after day after day, it actually does something to your brain and its functioning. And it messes you up more. Because your brain does not have time not only to heal, but it doesn't have time to be real. It can't focus. It can't compute. It can't process. It can't output reliable information to the rest of your body. It's confused. It's got a disruption in its data processor, if you will, because somebody has decided to run the production line too much and it's overheating, per se. And its systems are failing. You need to rest and sleep. Very vital. 34. Remembering how it has affected your family. Remembering how it has affected your family. 35. Forcing myself to go to work. That's self-explanatory. Forcing myself to go to work. Or spin it off that. Forcing yourself to go anywhere besides your contact. Or your local bar. Or the gas station to buy cigarettes. Or wherever. The casino or whatever it is. 36. Trying to face life instead of avoiding it. Trying to face life instead of avoiding it. Again, sometimes life can just be sucked right out of you. Living can suck the life right out of you. It says the inventory measures behavior related to positive thinking, negative thinking, avoidance, distraction, and seeking social support. Review the results and think about them. Do you tend to think positively or negatively? Do you tend to avoid triggers or seek social support? Which coping strategies are effective for reducing cravings, and which strategies could you work on? And we are going to stop there because the next section is deciding how you'll cope. And there's more questions. So we're already at an hour and 40-ish on this. And like I said, I'm hoping this all went through because it kept glitching a little bit, and I don't know if it stopped it. I'm going to listen to it. I don't want to have to re-record it. So if it does glitch, I'm sorry. But I'm going to post it the way it is, but I am going to listen to it before I do. Because I do this. I'm doing this. Obviously I'm reading the ebook, but my thoughts and opinions are me. And I go with the moment. And sometimes my moments are just that. Not that I won't think of it, what I want to say in a different way later, but sometimes I need to say something and it needs to be that way at that moment, if that makes any sense. It makes sense in my head. But, and I don't recommend you going in there because there's cobwebs up in there in a filing system that I haven't even figured out yet. But I have learned, and I have been teaching myself that I need to be in my own audience. So I do listen to my podcast because I need to hear myself and what I say, what I read, and what I research, resources. I need to be in my audience too. Because just because I'm saying it and I'm reading it, I hear it and I speak it, but I need to be able to understand it and focus on it, but I need to be able to feel it and believe it. Believing it is the key factor for me. Because you spend your whole life believing all the negative things that everybody says to you and everything society says to you that's negative, heartbreaking, mean, deceitful, whatever it is that has made you feel like a worthless piece of poo-poo. You have been able to believe and feel that. Why can't you believe and feel something good? Because you don't know how. Somebody gives you a compliment, what are you going to do with it? What are you going to do with it? You hear it. You might smile. You might shrug it off. You might think they're bullshitting you. What if it's sincere? What if it's true? It's hard to believe, isn't it? It's hard to believe that somebody would actually feel positive about you. That actually somebody would actually believe in you, actually love you, actually have something good to say about you. It's very hard to believe, isn't it? Too good to be true. I must be all them bad things that everybody has made me feel my whole complete life. I have to be. Because everybody said it, so therefore it must be true. No. No. Sometimes people say things because it's a reflection of how they feel about themselves. But sometimes some people say things because they don't really know what else to say. They just rather give their opinion, or maybe they're just lost for words. And sometimes people don't say anything because it's not the time to. Or they just don't have nothing to say. There's no words to express what needs to be said. Sometimes silence is very deafening and more louder than any megaphone could ever be in your ear. Because sometimes it's what people don't say that you need to feel more than ever. That's what you're missing. You're missing your sense of security. You're missing your foundation. You're missing your self-worth. You're missing love. You're missing compassion. You're missing self-approval. You're missing acknowledgement. You're missing not feeling abandoned. The list goes on and on and on. That's what you miss. You miss human interaction. Even if it's your own reflection. You need to remember it's okay to miss you. You're not being selfish to remember you. And I am teaching myself that too. I am not a selfish person. I am not a selfish person. But I get told that I'm selfish. And I only think of myself. And I'll tell you what. That is farther from the truth than the end of the world is to me, so to speak. I meant like the earth, like the world as in the world earth, the other side of the earth. I mean, not the end of the world. Anyway, it's far away. It's not true. Because I am not selfish. I am one of the most kind-hearted, good, true, realistic, heartfelt, meaningful, loving, respectful, reassuring, self-motivating, positive, I'm not selfish. Yeah, and I'm not trying to sound, people are like, oh, if I'm so confident in myself, then I sound conceited. I guess if you want to play with the words. Would you rather say you're conceited, or you want to say you're an asshole? Or worthless? I mean, really? I'd rather feel positive about myself and good about myself than saying, I'm a selfish asshole. Because that's not true. And people are more apt to tell bad things about you to people, but they neglect to tell the good things about you, or they neglect to tell you the things that you did positively for them. Or they forget to realize that maybe, just maybe, that day that they think that you're being whatever, maybe you just lost somebody you loved. Or maybe you just lost your job. Maybe you're having a bad moment. Or maybe you are in a healing stage of your sobriety. And you just don't got time for their bullshit. Because sometimes those are the moments when it's not about you. It's about them. They just make it about you. Because it's easier for you to be defensive and defend yourself, because then you just took it off of them, and the spotlight's off of them now because you're too busy defending yourself, that they got off the hook with whatever they did. Because you're too busy defending yourself, that what they did don't matter now. And that's not always true, but it can be. Just food for thought. My opinions. My experiences, my way of life, my observations, and me being the consequences of other people in my life and my own. But one thing that I will say right now that I'm not, I am not sorry that you are listening to me right now. I am very proud of each and every one of you. And if you are struggling with something, please reach out to somebody. It's no joke. And don't let anybody make you feel like it is. Because it does take that one moment. And I'd rather you have many moments than for other people praying and wishing that they had moments that will never exist again because you're gone. 988 is a suicide prevention hotline. They're very skilled, talented people, and they can offer you resources. Reach out to whoever you're comfortable with. Find coping mechanisms that help you. I've talked about that myself in my other podcast. I say my ABCs in my head out loud. Sometimes I do them in sign language and both. Depends how upset I am, how much it's gotten a hold of me. And sometimes I've been in really bad shape in my panic and anxiety, and I've had to do it quite a few times in a row. But it has worked for me. And until you can say them completely without stopping yourself, without losing your breath, without hesitation, and you're comfortable with it, keep going. Work through that moment. And pray. Praying helps too. Can't go wrong. People say, would it hurt? Would it really hurt? Everything else is hurting you, and you're letting it. But yet you won't pray to something good. But yet want to believe in a magical, jolly old man on a sleigh with a flying reindeer that goes around the world one time a year going ho, 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 breaking into people's houses, leaving gifts. That's okay. But yeah, you can't believe in God. Something good. The only thing it costs to be good in the world is your time. And that is the one thing in your life you cannot get back. That is priceless and valuable, and it is yours. And what you decide to give it to, right now you've decided to give it to me and share it with me. And if you've taken the time out to listen to me in this podcast, with my whole heart and sincerity, I thank you. Because you have given up that time in your life that you'll never get back and shared it with me. And I am honored to have shared this with you at that time. And on that, I'm going to close out. And in the next one, in our episode 6, we will continue on with the Sobriety E-Book. If you have not checked out my other podcast, please feel free to do so. I have it on Podbean and on my YouTube channel at Let Me Clear My Throat. So until then, I hope everybody has a safe and blessed day, and go enjoy some sunshine. Get some beautiful vitamin God. Have a great day. Good night.